Mr. Michael Brandvold.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on again. It's as I said, it's been a while in the making that we've been trying to do something, and I'm glad you're here.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big follower of what you do.
Awesome, thank you. So just a little warning to everybody who's listening. I'm coming down with the flu, so this is probably my last day before I'm stuck in bed for the week. So I'm glad we got this done today. So yeah, so how about we just talk a little bit about your background, Michael? When did you start in the whole world of podcasting that's now such a big part of your life?
Um, I started podcasting 2011.
Okay.
11, yeah. It was, I started my own marketing company in the summer of 2010, and I pretty much was just like, all right, I need to find new and different ways to market myself. Not, I wasn't looking to go spend money to buy advertising, buy banner ads, buy magazine ads, whatever it might be. And, I've been listening to podcasts on and off for a long time. Rock and Roll Geek Show was one of them that I've been listening to from like the very first episode. So I was just like, well, it can't be that hard to do a podcast, can it? It's just like you just record yourself. That's it. I mean, in all honesty, podcasting is nothing more than an interview that you post online for people to download and listen to. And I've interviewed many celebrities over the years as part of my job, so it didn't really concern me or wasn't too worried about how difficult it might be. So I literally just reached out to my Music Biz Weekly co-host, Brian Thompson, on Twitter. We didn't know each other. We were just Twitter followers. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, dude, I like what you're doing. Would you be interested in doing a weekly podcast? I just want to do something where two guys get together and talk about music business and music marketing. He's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. That was on a Monday, and we recorded our first episode on Wednesday and posted it on Friday. And that was like February of 2011, and we've been going pretty much weekly since then. And, no knowledge of how to do anything other than I didn't want to spend any money.
Right. You just wanted to do a show.
Just wanted to do a show. And I know enough that the internet and all this technology that's happening around us, you can do so much stuff for free or next to free. Mm-hmm. And, there's a lot of podcasters who are like, oh, you need to go out and buy yourself a mixing board and an XLR microphone. And, you got to spend hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars getting all the right gear, green screens behind you. And if you're doing video, professional cameras. And I'm like, that's all bullshit. Can I swear?
Absolutely.
That's all bullshit. We just are doing what we are doing right now. Got on Skype, and we started just doing audio. We didn't do video. Just got on Skype and using a $15 piece of software called Call Recorder.
Yeah.
Just recorded our Skype conversation, converted that into an MP3 file, and uploaded that through my WordPress website to iTunes, and boom, it was done. And I don't know, about a year after we started, I'm like, Brian, we could do video.
Yeah.
He's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, listen, Call Recorder will record video just as easily as it records the audio. Let's just record the video and post the video straight to YouTube. Nothing special, no editing, nothing designed for video, no multi-cameras, no cut-ins, no nothing. Just videotape us talking. It's like, all right, let's do that. So, we've been doing video since, I don't know, at some point in 2012, 2013, something like that. And same thing. No, I'm using the camera in my Mac right here.
It looks great.
Yeah, it's Call Recorder, it's Skype. The only thing I invested in was a headset, but even the headset was like $40.
Yeah, exactly. This mic was like $70 at the most. I mean, what people don't realize is, as you were saying, there's people out there, like, let's say, I've been on the Adam Carolla show recently. He has a huge studio. He uses the TriCaster to record. That's thousands of dollars. We're just doing it like this. And my favorite thing about podcasting is that both are equally important, but you can do it however you want.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's the content of the show that matters.
Yeah.
I've listened to Adam Carolla when he was on the radio, and I've listened to his podcast. He could do his podcast just like we're doing.
Yeah.
And people would still listen to him by the millions because the content is great. But if he had crappy content, it doesn't matter if you're using TriCasters and a whole production studio. I don't care if it looks great and it sounds great. If it's boring as hell, I'm not going to ever listen to it again.
Right. It's like a bad HD TV show. It doesn't matter how good it looks.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And listen, do I wish at some point that I could get to the point where I'm doing it like that? Sure, I think everybody does.
Yeah.
But that also means your podcast has probably become your business and your profession. Like
right.
Adam Carolla, you're making money doing it. I mean, it's as we've always joked about on Three Sides of the Coin, we're the what do we call ourselves? The low budget, no budget podcast.
Right.
It's like, you guys can't really complain about the show because we don't make any money from the show. It's not our full-time job. We do it as a hobby. So we do as good as we can with what we got, putting in, like Three Sides of the Coin. We'll spend an hour and a half, 2 hours every week recording it. And then I'll probably spend another hour on the weekends doing some quick editing and putting it together. That's 3 hours out of my week that I take out from not working or being with family to do that. So it's not like we have that luxury of sitting down and doing this 8 hours a day.
Yeah, and getting paid, large amounts of money from sponsors and your video podcast network and this and that. Mentioning Three Sides of the Coin, you said something about you can't really complain about that. The funny part is that
they still complain.
They still complain, and Three Sides of the Coin seems to be one of the most complained about KISS podcasts, which to me I find interesting because I find you guys extremely professional. You guys do like to razz your audience, though. You like to give them a bit of a hard time sometimes, joke around.
Yeah, I've sort of likened what's happened with it to very much like a morning radio show. I mean, morning radio shows joke and play with their listeners and pull pranks and stuff like that. And you could sit here and go, well, Mike's the morning DJ and Tommy's his sidekick and Mark is the third guy who comes in and does other crazy things. However you want to look at it, but that's sort of the way it is. It's like, it's fun. It's entertaining. When Howard Stern pulls crap on his radio show, do you believe it all? At least I don't.
I hope they don't.
I've never believed all. It's like, oh, okay, great, good one, Howard. That was funny. But yeah, I think also what goes along with it is from the very first episode, we decided not to take any shit.
Yeah.
And people are full of opinions, and that's great. You can have all the opinions you want, and I'm sure you get it. I know you get it.
Yeah.
People will sit down and go, well, it would be much better if you did it this way. Change this, do that, come do it a different way. And, if you listen to every bit of advice that was offered to you free of charge, the one thing I could probably guarantee you is your show would suck.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because who are you then creating the show for? That one person who gave you that bit of advice.
Right.
And I've always joked around in the KISS world, I liken that to, well, I could listen to all the critics and we could become the elder.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's a good lesson. And you did do a ebook about the marketing lessons you learned from KISS, and that's very interesting, an analogy, because if you think about it, KISS is a band who their big message has been do what you want, however you want it, don't take any crap. But then almost their whole career they spent chasing what the critics wanted and what certain fans wanted. So pretty much you're saying what you learned from KISS is not to do any of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think with KISS, like everybody, when you first get started and then success really hits, you're influenced by a lot of people.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people, you're going to be like, "Oh, I better listen to that financial advisor. I better listen to that expert because they obviously know what they're doing. I've never done this before." And, and I think that's what led Kiss down the path of a lot of the things they've done in their career. Whether you want to say Dynasty or Unmasked or definitely The Elder. I mean, they come right out and admit they recorded The Elder to prove to the critics, to please the critics. Not for the fans, definitely not for themselves. And what do you end up with? Something that the fans don't like and the band didn't even like.
Right. It was kind of like, let's get this one out of the way to please the critics and then continue.
Well, I think at that point in time, they thought that's what they needed to do. And, being able to look at it from the outside and as a fan and with history now, I can sit back and go, yeah, but they're not happy with that work. That's their piece of work that they have to live with the rest of their life that their name is on, and they're not happy with that. And what that told me is you have to do what you like first. You have to create the show you want every week because it's going to have your name on it, and you're the one that's got to live with it and hope that everybody else likes it.
Right.
But if nobody else likes it, at least you do.
Yeah.
And you can live with that. I can live with me being the only person who likes the show. But it's awfully tough to live with everybody else bickering about it and you at the same time going, God, I hate that. I knew I shouldn't have done it. I knew it was a mistake. You can't take it back. So one of the things we've always said on Three Sides is, it's great that so many people love what we're doing, that they're connected to it, that they want to reach out to us, they want to tell us what's good and bad and otherwise, but we have stuck to our guns from day one to do only what we want, not what the fans want, what we want, and thankfully what we want is what the fans want, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, yeah, it's a Kiss podcast. Like you guys always say, three guys in a bar talking about Kiss. And, that's what you guys deliver, I think.
Yeah.
Do you think that when people are sending you messages saying, this part of the show sucked and I'm a longtime fan or whatever they like to say, do you feel like you get defensive with certain negative comments on YouTube and Facebook?
The only ones that I get defensive with are people who are outright making stuff up and outright lying.
Yeah.
If you want to come on and leave a comment that says, I didn't like this episode because this didn't appeal to me and I didn't like this and I didn't feel like I agreed with you. Well, that's all great. But if you come on and say, you know what, this episode sucked because everybody else out there hates it and this is the way it is in the rest of the world, just like, no. First of all, you're only speaking for yourself. You don't speak for the rest of the world. You don't know what everybody likes. And stop making up bold-faced lies.
Right.
So, that's the stuff where we will call people out. It's like, okay, whether it's about our show or just about Kiss, if you come on and say, we did a bunch of stuff a few weeks ago where we posted the average tour attendance.
Okay.
And it was numbers that we took, factual numbers that were taken from the book Kiss Alive Forever, that was researched for years by Kurt and Jeff, the two authors. So it's very factual data. And we just presented it. And there were fans that would say, it's absolutely impossible that the most recent tour had a higher average attendance than the reunion tour. It's a lie.
You guys made it up.
You made it up. Your source is wrong. So, okay, if that's what you're going to claim, you can claim that. But what are you backing your statement up with? Right. You have to back that up with something. Do you have different numbers? Do you have a different source? You can't just say it's wrong because you think it's wrong.
Well, it is because I think it's wrong.
Yeah. So, and that's the stuff where we're going to call people out because if you want to question something, that's great, but be prepared to back up your statement. You can't just jump into a conversation and disrupt things by saying, you're right, I'm wrong, blah, 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 blah. No. Back up your statements. Facts, people. Facts. And if you don't have facts, then you're gone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that makes sense. It's like this. There's certain things that when I'm getting the negative feedback that stick in my mind, and they're always like that. One of them was saying that I was making fun of Vinnie Vincent, and I asked 5, 6, 7 times, when did I make fun of him? And I could never get an answer. You never get an answer.
You can never answer that, you know, and that is an indication of somebody who just wants to cause trouble and rip you apart, because once you call them out and ask them to defend themselves and they can't, they disappear or they change the topic on you.
Yeah, and I got resorted to being called stupid, which is just, I mean, yeah. I'm 16 and I find that childish.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, they'll resort to name calling and anything else once you've got them sort of backed into the corner that they can't defend their position. You know, and the funny thing about our show is, you know, we've always said from day one, it's just our opinion. Mm-hmm. The show is nothing more than 3 guys talking about our opinions of Kiss. So that in itself means we are never wrong.
With what? Well, unless
because my opinion is never wrong. My opinion is my opinion. It may not be your opinion, and that's great, but I'm not saying my opinion is fact. You can't tell me my opinion is wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it so fun and interesting to get into conversations, because you can enter these conversations going, you're always going to be right. Because how can somebody tell you that you're wrong for how can somebody tell me that I'm wrong for thinking Crazy Nights is such a great album?
No, you can't. Well,
you can't. You can say it over and over and over, and you can call me every name on the planet, and you can present every review you want from other people, but that doesn't change the fact that my opinion is I love it, and therefore it's right.
Yeah, even if you want to say it's the best Kiss album. And, you know, you talk about opinion, that's where the funny stuff comes in, because some people say, my opinion is, Mike said on 3 Sides that he wants Ace's tour bus to crash. You know, and they present it like it's fact. As long as it's you know, just an opinion, let's say The Elder's the best Kiss album ever, that's perfectly fine. I see where you're coming from.
Yeah. So, you know, that's what so many people I think miss that point in the show. First of all, a lot of them think it's a show about Kiss facts. You know, and that's not to say we don't present stuff where we talk about real facts, but we're not, you know, I sort of liken it to this. Listen, we're not CNN. We're Rush Limbaugh. There's a difference. One isn't, and you know, we can all sit here and go CNN isn't reliable, but in the very broad concept, CNN is a news source. Rush Limbaugh is a commentary show on news.
Right.
We are commentary. We're not news. So don't take what we say as news.
Politics aside, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So you know, and I think a lot of people have just gotten to the point where they think we're just all news. We're the latest, you know, and we've had to remind people, it's like, no, you know, we're not about news. We've never pretended to be a news destination. We've never pretended to be that. We've always said we are commentary. We're opinions. And with that, you can't fault anything we say. You don't have to agree with it and you don't have to like it, but it's not wrong.
Yeah, you can hate it as much as you want. And it's funny to me because some of the people who say that they do hate your show and that they do hate everything about it seem to be the ones that listen to it the most.
Yeah, that's funny. That's, you know, did you ever see Howard Stern's movie Private Parts?
Yes.
So do you remember the scene where he was at, I think it was at WNEW in New York, and the program director had just done research as to like why people are listening to Howard or something like that, and how long they listen to him. And the people who love Howard listen for 10 minutes a day. And then the program director was like, but we can't figure this out. The people who hate Howard listen for 15 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And we asked them why. And their answer was because they wanted to see what he was going to say next. You know, and I sort of liken it to that. It's like, some of these people truly hate us and don't like us, but they listen because they want to know what is the next thing they can hate us for.
Yeah, they need more ammo.
They need more ammo. And, and it goes back to the saying that Kiss has always stood behind, love us or hate us. Just get out of the middle.
Right.
And listen, I am fine if there's a bunch of people that hate us. Hating us means we're doing something that's touching people. Yeah. And it's making them feel connected in a good or bad way, but you're connected enough that you feel the need to voice your hatred just as much as somebody feels the need to voice their love for it.
Right. And again, it all comes down to opinion, right?
Yeah, it is.
So tell me, do you think that you on Three Sides have done anything that has deserved any negative comments? Is there anything that you look back on and say, man, maybe I shouldn't have done that?
There's nothing on Three Sides that, and I can only speak for myself, but I'm sure Tommy would agree. There's nothing that we regret doing, because everything came from the heart, was honestly said. If you don't like it, you don't have to listen to it. You don't have to come back. But I'm not going to sugarcoat anything because it might upset somebody. And believe me, we've said things that have upset people.
Can you remember any specific ones that upset people the most?
Oh, I think it's without question, anything we talk about Ace or Vinny will right off the bat upset their hardcore fans.
Yeah. And Eric Carr, right?
Eric Carr to some extent, but Eric Carr's fans are not crazy like Ace or Vinny fans are. I mean, that's because Eric was a nice guy. Yeah. He didn't do anything wrong. He wasn't bad. He didn't screw people over. We'll say things that we honestly feel about Ace or Vinny, and it's going to upset the people who want to stick their head in the sand and pretend it never happened. But we will call anybody out equally in the band for anything we don't like. And to that, I always say, listen, I've called Paul out. I've called Gene out. The only people we can't really call out, you can't call out Eric Singer.
No.
What has he done bad to people? Tommy Thayer, same way. Bruce Kulick, same way. Eric Carr, same way. Mark St. John, he wasn't there long enough to know anything that he would have done. So, you're left with Gene and Paul and Vinny and Ace and Peter.
Hold on, though. You mentioned Tommy. He seems to be one of the most hated members of the band ever.
Well, yeah, but it's not because of how he treats people.
Okay,
it's because they don't like him. I mean, Eric's the same way. It's not how Eric treats people.
No.
It's because people don't like their role in the band.
Right.
People can't accept change.
It's funny because people sit there spending their lives arguing about the Catman and the Spaceman. If you think about that for just a second, remove Kiss. If you told someone who isn't a Kiss fan, it really upset me that this new guy is the Catman, they would think you're insane.
They would. I mean, they would sit there and go, so what, did you get pissed when the new guy came in to play Batman in the movie?
Yeah,
when there was a new Superman?
I always hated Clooney.
It's just... It's crazy. I mean, and part of it is, listen, you're arguing about something you have zero impact on. It is, some people, I think it really upsets them. It really bothers them. And it's like, why are you worried about something so much that you have zero ability to impact? You can't make them get new characters. You can't make them leave the band. It's completely out of your control. All you can control is either you accept it or you don't accept it.
Yeah.
Don't make yourself miserable over it.
And it's crazy. I mean, especially when it comes down to makeup. I mean, I think that if the band was to remove all their makeup and have these members from the get-go without the makeup, I'm not sure that Tommy and Eric would get as much hate.
They probably wouldn't, but Kiss is not a band out of makeup. Kiss is makeup. Yeah, Kiss, and probably one of my favorite eras of Kiss was the 80s out of makeup. I loved them out of makeup.
Yeah.
But that's over. That's the past. That's history. They're never going back. They're not going to take the makeup off and do a tour out of makeup. That's not what Kiss is known for. I don't care how important it was in your life.
Mm-hmm.
It will not happen again. Kiss will always be in makeup, and it will always be in the 4 characters that are known as Kiss. The fox and the Egyptian warrior are not known by anybody except a very small handful of very diehard Kiss fans.
Yeah, and it's a big deal to them, and I'm one of them. But when you, as I said on my podcast a couple episodes ago, ask someone on the street who Vinnie Vincent is. I hate to say it, but they won't know. It doesn't matter.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how important that era was, and it is so important to so many diehard fans. But Kiss is, as you said, the 4 characters, and the amount of shows that weren't selling at that time when they were out of makeup and stuff, it proves it.
Yeah, it's just, Vinny's makeup was around for one tour. One tour out of the band's 40-year history. Nobody remembers that. And when I say nobody, I mean in the general scope.
Public.
Not us diehard Kiss fans. Eric's makeup was around for one tour in the U.S. and one tour in Europe and one in Australia. Again, out of 40 years. That's nothing. It's a blip. That's crazy. Eric was in the band for many more tours out of makeup than he was in makeup. Those characters are I'm sorry, but they're just a little footnote in the history of Kiss.
Yeah, and again, that doesn't take away from the player. I mean, Eric Carr, I believe it was today he passed, 23 years ago.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. I love him. He seemed like a great guy. But, the character at the end of the day, it didn't have an impact. That doesn't take away from how amazing of a player he is, And
it doesn't mean it didn't have an impact on us diehard Kiss fans.
Yeah.
But to the average rock fan, the average music fan out there, the casual Kiss fan, it meant nothing.
Yeah, that's true. And I hate to say it, but it is true. Getting back to 3 sides of the coin for one second here. Is it okay if I ask you about one of your ex-co-hosts?
Sure.
Okay, so for people who don't know, Mitch LaFawn, who has been on this podcast and used to be on, what was the show you guys did? Dropping the Needle?
Dropping the Needle.
That's right. So he was on the show with Michael, and then he was on 3 Sides of the Coin as one of the original hosts. Mitch left the show kind of suddenly. At least for us, it was suddenly. Can you shed some
suddenly
light on
for
that?
us?
Okay. Can you shed some light on that, on why he left?
I mean, basically all I can say is the same thing, and I think it was in episode, was it 66 was the last episode he was on?
Okay.
So Tommy and I did a short little, 10 or 15 minute discussion about what happened, and then we played, because we record episodes a week in advance.
Okay.
So by the time that episode aired with Mitch on it, he had quit the show a week earlier.
Oh, gotcha.
So we felt like, okay, we need to do a 10, 15 minute, let's address what happened. And what we said in that, so I encourage everybody to go back, and I think it was episode 66, somewhere around there.
We'll have that link.
Listen to it. And it was right at the beginning, so you don't have to listen to the whole thing if you don't want. But he just quit in the middle of an online chat. So, I mean, and when we've got 3 co-hosts, we're always on Facebook chatting.
Yeah. I
mean, even now with Mark, there's always, all right, what do you think about this? Should we do that? What's going on? I mean, that's sort of how we keep things planned and organized. Mm-hmm. And we were having Tommy, me, and Mitch were in an online chat talking about upcoming guests. We had, if I remember correctly, we had Richie Weiss and what's the guy from Megadeth? Dave Ellefson, maybe?
Yeah, that sounds right.
They were both confirmed to be on the show. We're going to do both of them. But they got double booked onto the same day.
Oh.
Basically, somebody needed to do something sooner, and it was like, okay, well, we can only obviously do one a week. So we don't want to cancel one, and Mitch was the one who was arranging and doing all the booking. So it was basically, hey, Mitch, just figure it out. Move one a week later, whichever one. It doesn't matter. We're not canceling it, but just move them around because they got double booked, overpromised, whatever happened. And quite honestly, I can't tell you what caused the snap, but it was basically just, that's it. I quit. I'm done. I'm out. It's over. And my reaction was like, what? And Tommy had actually left the chat for like 10 minutes because he works in a real estate office, so he had to go take care of something. And I sent Tommy a message. And I'm saying, dude, you need to get back here. I mean, Mitch just quit the show.
Wow.
He just quit. And Tommy comes back and it's like everything blew up. I mean, and that's literally how it happened.
So do you think that if I ask Mitch this, and this is, I'm not saying that you're making anything up, I don't believe you are, but if I ask Mitch this, how do you think the story would go? Would it be the same, or would he say, like, okay, here's the question. Do you think that there was stuff building up to that moment?
Oh, I'm sure there was stuff building up, but I can't speak for Mitch. I mean, what I can speak to is Mitch loves to do interviews with guests. His new shows are proof to that. I mean, One-on-One with Mitch LaFon is all interviews, and that's great. He does a great job going out there and getting his guests and interviewing them. We didn't want Three Sides of the Coin to be an interview show.
Okay.
We as in Tommy and myself, because Tommy and I were the ones who basically gestated the idea of Three Sides of the Coin. Going back, I don't know what year it was, 2012, something like that. We're both from Minnesota, and whenever I get back to Minnesota, he and I get together. We go to this sports bar called Joe Sensors. We usually honestly, we do a Three Sides of the Coin. We've been doing this for years. We go meet at the bar. We have some beers, some burgers, and we just catch up on Kiss. And we
just
talk about off air. It's just two friends getting together and talking. And, he had been asking me a lot about my other podcasts because he was looking to want to do similar stuff for his real estate business. And when we were leaving that evening, he's like, if you, and I think I'd even said this to Mitch on Dropping the Needle. It's like, I really had no interest in a Kiss podcast. It just, to me, it seemed too obvious and too easy to do.
Okay. So what changed?
Well, I don't know exactly how or what changed, but as we were leaving the bar, Tommy goes, listen, if you ever want to do it, I'm serious. I would love to do this. And he goes, but on one condition, I want to be able to talk about Kiss fans. And I said, oh, okay, that's cool. That's what I'd want too. I'd want to be open and honest about everything from the band to Kiss fans. And I don't know if I just got home and started thinking about it more. And it's just like, yeah, you know what? That would kind of be fun just to get on the air and just bullshit about Kiss.
Right.
No end goal, no purpose, no nothing. It's just, let's just talk about Kiss. And I think he and I were emailing or messaging on Facebook. And I said, listen, I think, I think a third guy would be good. Give us more opinions, more to bounce off of. I go, and I bet Mitch would be into this. And Tommy hadn't met Mitch before. I think he probably knew him by name, but that was it. I go, Mitch is on this Drop of the Needle. He's a huge Kiss fan. He buys all of the stuff, goes to all the shows. I think he would be a good addition.
The obvious choice, really.
Yeah, it was an obvious choice. Mitch and I had already been doing Dropping the Needle. We'd done a Kiss show on Dropping the Needle.
Yes.
We talked about Monster. So I said, it seems like an obvious fit. Reached out to Mitch. He said, yeah, I'd love to do it. Told Tommy, there you go. We've got 3 people. Let's do a Kiss podcast. We started, it started out right away. And obviously we're talking about who we want to get as guests. Now, I was less interested in guests, mainly from the reason of having run Kiss Otaku, my first fan website, and then Kiss Online.
Yeah.
I'd interviewed many people in the world of Kiss. So it really didn't interest me to go that route. I was more interested in, I want to do a show where I can voice my opinion on Kiss. What I like, what I don't like about the set list, about the stage, about the show. Because I was going through a period then. I was not going through. I was already deep in a period where I basically said I was done seeing Kiss in concert. Paul's voice was shot. Their set list was stale. The stage was stale. And, you know, I wanted to voice my opinion on why it was important to me. Tommy was a little more interested in speaking to guests because he hadn't done it before. And Mitch was big time interested in it.
So it's just pretty much a conflict of interest.
Well, it was a conflict of interest, but pretty early on, we kind of agreed to, you know what? We do 4 shows a month. Let's do 2 shows a month as guests.
Okay.
That seems like a fair compromise. 50% guests, 50% us talking about Kiss, because there's a lot, I mean, as you know, there's a lot going on in the world of Kiss that you can have something fresh to talk about every week. Oh, yeah. Crazy as that sounds, you know, I just totaled it up. I've done over we have done 135 hours of Kiss discussion on 3 sides of the coin.
Wow. That's a lot.
A lot of talking about one band. And I didn't want us to get to the point where we were just solid guests and we didn't have the ability to jump in and talk about what we thought about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Monster Tour, whatever was going on.
Yeah, and it's literally just Skype. Like, I feel like if I was sitting in on one of you guys' Skype calls, it would be very, very similar.
That's what we hear from fans all the time, is like they just feel like they're sitting there talking with their best friends. You know, and so many of them start leaving their comments in stream while they listen to us. Mm-hmm. But we had compromised at 2 guests a month, which I was fine with because, you know, we had also sort of decided, let's not get everybody on the planet who could talk about Kiss. Mm-hmm. And this is no disrespect to everybody, but it's sort of like we wanted to get people who had never done an interview before or people who were going to talk about something for the very first time. So, you know, some of our early guests, Ed Cannon, Peter Criss's drum tech on like the reunion tour. And he's the guy who sat in and played as Peter for one show. He'd never talked about this before.
Right.
He came on our show and talked about it. Kevin Valentine, who played drums on Psycho Circus. You know, it's long been rumored that Peter Criss didn't play drums on Psycho Circus. And it was played by Kevin Valentine. And the band denied it for the longest time. Well, Kevin Valentine came on the show and talked about all of it. So those were the things that were really cool. And, you know, then we got people like Lynn Christopher. I mean, Lynn was one of those where we were like, she's going to do the show, but all of us were not quite sure how interesting that would be.
She was the publicist, right?
No. Lynn Christopher was the one who had the album in like 1972 that Gene and Paul first appeared as professional musicians singing background vocals on one song. So it's a very small Kiss reference. But she came on the show, and it turned out to be an amazing show. But here's Lynn Christopher talking about Gene and Paul in the studio. You know, so we would look for other people like that to come on the show, like Drago.
Oh, yes.
From the back of the first Kiss album, it says, "Where's Drago? Who's Drago?" Something like that. Yeah. Well, Mitch found Drago, who was basically an engineer on that album, and he came on and talked. So it was cool things like that. And, you know, we had Bruce Kulick on, and I'll be honest and say I didn't have interest in having Bruce on. I think Bruce is a great guy, nice guy, nothing against him. But my take was Bruce talks to everybody. He's been on every show. He's been to every expo. He's been more than accessible to everybody out there.
Right.
But Tommy really wanted to talk to somebody like Bruce for the first time. Mitch really wanted on. So, okay, let's have Bruce on. But that would have been an example of, you know, I wouldn't have been interested in that as a guest because it's not like Bruce would come on the show and reveal some brand new dirt.
Right. Yeah, there's certain
That's not
people...
it's not in Bruce's personality to do that.
Yeah.
I would have never pressed him to do that because I know he wouldn't do that. So it's sort of like, why have that person on the show if they're never going to answer what you hope they're going to answer?
Right, I gotcha.
But, you know, and as the shows moved on, more and more people were popping up as possible guests. And it's funny, I remember telling Mitch, I'm like, listen, you know, think of this as I don't know, the Jerry Springer show or whatever. When somebody becomes a potential guest, you need to pre-qualify them. Ask them, what are you going to talk about? What are you going to answer for us? Will you talk about this? You know, we just don't want to say yes and then have them come on and go, oh, well, they never answered anything.
Right.
You know, do a little prep work as to what will they tell us. You know, I remember for the longest time, we wanted to get Dana Strum on. Tommy and I were like, get Dana. We want somebody, you know, Vinny's never going to do an interview.
I've learned that.
You know, we learned that Michael James Jackson is not interested in doing interviews, so he's out. We had Adam Mitchell on, but then we were like, who else could talk about Vinny? Well, Dana Strum.
Yeah. And he was in Vinny's band?
He was in Vinny's band. He was in the Vinny Vincent Invasion. He might have even been, no, I was going to say, was he along with Vinny when Vinny came into Kiss? But I don't think so. I think it was after. Right. But anyway, it's like there's a guy who spent a lot of time with Vinny. Maybe he's willing to talk about Vinny, you know?
Yeah.
Mitch, you know him. Ask him. Get him on the show. We want Vinny on the show. So, you know, we would push for stuff like that.
So basically, if I guess what you're saying is there are certain people in the Kiss world, without naming names because they're all great, but that have said it all. They've been
on every single podcast.
My show when I was 10, 11.
They've been on every single website. They've been on every single fanzine. They've been expos, and you name it. And again, it's nothing against them personally because they have great and interesting stories, but they've told their stories.
Yeah.
And I felt like we didn't want to just retell the same story for the 101st time. We wanted to tell a story for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody who was going to say, well, you know what? Now I'm willing to talk about this. Okay, now come on. Now you're willing to talk about it.
Right. It gets into the debate, is it for hits or is it for original content? Do we want to have a certain member of Kiss to give rehearsed answers, or do we want to have them on to talk about something that nobody's heard? So let's say that you would have an offer for Paul Stanley. And Paul says, listen, guys, I can't talk about my voice. I can't talk about the makeup. I can only talk about the Rock Hall or my new book. Would you do that interview?
Yeah, I think Paul is too big to say no to.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, I don't think we would turn him down in a heartbeat. I don't think anybody would. You know, I don't think we would turn down Gene. But I go into those interviews, having been around them so long, I know what they're not going to answer.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't even bother trying to ask him those questions, which makes interviewing tough.
Yeah.
But it also helps me because I know I'm not going to get into a awkward position where I'm asking a question that they try and dance around. It's like, listen, they're just not going to answer that.
Yeah, don't ask them.
Don't ask them something that just isn't going to happen.
Yeah, it depends how much you want to push, really. And I find that if you push too much, you can lose your guest. It is difficult interviewing, and you know, sometimes you have a guest that doesn't talk enough. You have to ask 10, 20 questions in a half hour. You have a guest that talks too much. And most of the time on this show, it's the perfect balance, for me at least. But I find it interesting when people on the message boards and online and YouTube act like they would know exactly what to do in a difficult situation.
They don't. They're just like, why didn't you ask this question? You know, it's like, because you would never get it answered. So here's a little example, a little story. So while I was working with Kiss Online, which I was with them for 7 or 8 years,
yeah,
It was at the 50th anniversary of American Bandstand, which coincidentally was the very first public appearance of Tommy Thayer in the Spaceman makeup. So they were doing a TV taping with Dick Clark down in Pasadena, and I went down to cover the show. And, when I go to these little events, I usually try and grab 5 minutes with anybody in the band and get a quick interview. And I sat down with Paul. I don't know if it was before or after the show. It was probably before. And with what had been going on in the Kiss world at that time, especially with Gene and Paul, I threw a question out that I normally would never have asked during any of the tours that I was with them. And I said, what do you think of Gene and all of his outside projects? And he looked at me, and normally a question like that, you would get a very politically correct, not rocking the boat answer. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and he said, well, I've read this book before and I know how it ends. And I was like, wow, that was not an expected answer. No. And I even went to him afterwards and I said, Paul, do you want me to post that? He says, yes, post it exactly as it was. Wow. So, every once in a while, if you know the person well enough and you know what their mood is like and what's going on around them, you might be able to get something in there, but you can't just drop bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb, because otherwise you're going to get the we're done, thank you, politely leave, wrap it up, I've got to go. And that's what you would get with, a Paul Stanley, a Gene Simmons, an Ace Frehley, anybody like that, Peter Criss, you're going to get their canned side of the story. Even Vinnie Vincent. Listen, as much as all of us joke about, wouldn't it be great to get Vinnie on? Do I think for a second if Vinnie was going to come out and make his first statement in, 25 years, he's going to do it on my show? Yeah. No way. No freaking way. He's going to sit here and go, I want That Metal Show or Rolling Stone or Classic Rock Magazine or something like that. And do you think he's going to all of a sudden come out and admit how messed up he was and how wrong he was? Please.
No, you never know what he's going to say, especially when the 25 grand is in the bank or however much it is.
So it's just like, I don't fool myself into thinking that's what you want to get answered and to have other fans go, well, you didn't ask him that question. No, because it was never going to get frickin' answered. Right. Never.
It seems like people online want, in the Kiss podcast world, people to grill other people to ask only hard questions and almost make their guests feel uncomfortable. It's like I posted a thread up on Kiss Fact before I deleted my account about this interview asking for questions, which has since been deleted. People kept saying, ask him hard questions, grill him. This show isn't an interrogation. This is just a conversation show. I wouldn't have somebody on my show that I don't like or have a certain amount of respect for. Why would I ask them on and say, I don't even know, why is your show terrible or something rude? It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's a news show. That's 60 minutes.
Yeah.
We're not 60 minutes of Kiss.
I'm 16 minutes.
We're freaking again, we sit around the bar and chat and that's as much as people might hate that constant description, that is exactly what it is. And people can relate to that. When you meet your friend at a bar for a couple hours, what do you talk about? You don't know where it goes, but it's definitely not sitting down with a person and trying to pull out the dirty laundry and grill them and put them up against the wall like a firing squad. That's not what you do.
No.
You would never have a drink with that person again if that's what you tried to do. So,
yeah.
And listen, there are shows that do that, and that's great, and that's good for them. We don't want to be that. That was never what our intention was to do. So we're not going to go that direction. If somebody, and we tell our guests, it's like, listen, when you come on, we're not looking to force you to spill the beans.
No.
We don't want you to air the dirty laundry. If you want, you come on and say whatever you're comfortable with. That's it.
That's it.
You just chat and you just talk. If you feel like you're comfortable enough talking about recording all the drums on Psycho Circus, that's great.
Yeah.
But we're not going to force you into spilling the beans accidentally. That's not what we're about.
And it's rude when somebody takes the time to put aside an hour to do your show and you start, insulting them for... It's kind of like these people online want to live through what you're doing because they'll never get the chance to ask the questions that they have, in a way, when they're rude.
Yeah.
So 2 more questions for you, Michael, before you leave. Do you feel like you as in Three Sides of the Coin, you guys are withdrawn from the other podcasts in the KISS community?
I don't know if we're withdrawn. I mean, it's not like the KISS podcasts all get together and hang out anywhere.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's not like there's a private group where the podcast people hang out and talk amongst themselves and nobody else hangs out there. I don't know. I mean, maybe it can be seen that way because we're not always talking about and plugging other podcasts on our show, but that's not what we're about. I mean, we never did that from the beginning. It just wasn't what we wanted to do. We just wanted to talk about our stuff and do our stuff and do what we want. And, hopefully people connect and get it. If people think that we're slighting other shows, I can tell you it's not intentional. Mm-hmm. It's only how people perceive things.
Right. And I don't feel that you're slighting other shows. What I mean is there is a private group where the podcasters get along. I won't say the name, but basically.
Oh, there you go. See, I don't even know about it.
Right. Which I don't know why. I thought you were in it, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that it feels like there's Podkiss, there's the Kiss Room, there's Strange Ways, Podcast Rock City, all this stuff, and then there's Three Sides of the Coin on the other side. Is that a bad thing? I don't think so, but it just seems to be how it is.
I think that's how you're right. That's how it is. I mean, I can tell you from day one, and this is nothing against anybody else's podcasts, I don't regularly listen to all of the other podcasts. Mm-hmm. For one main reason, I don't have the frickin' time. I don't have enough time in the day between doing my shows, running my company, and having a new baby to sit down and listen to everybody else's show. Reason number 2, I don't want to be influenced by what they're doing. Right. So if we come up and do something on our show, it's because it was an idea that we had. I'm not saying it's an original idea, but it was an idea we had, not because we saw somebody else did it and we wanted to take the idea. Because let's be honest, there's not a lot of original ideas in the world of KISS to talk about. We're all going to talk about the same thing eventually.
Yeah.
But I don't take part in the other shows because I don't see them as competition. I'm not interested in that. I see ourselves as competition.
Yeah.
This goes back to an old KISS thing that I grew up with. Every year when KISS was going on tour, they didn't worry about what the other bands were doing. They just worried about how can they do better than the last KISS tour.
One up yourself.
One up yourself. So it's sort of like, okay, what can we on Three Sides of the Coin do that is better than what we did last week, last month, and last year? If we're always bettering ourselves, I would hope we're always better than everything else. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, well, somebody's doing this. We better change our direction to focus on that to better ourselves. And they've got better production quality. They've got better graphics. Well, we better focus on better. I'm not worried about that type of stuff. So we just do what we want to do every week, what we feel is the best. And, there's definitely no intentions that anybody's getting slighted. I'm sure there's probably, listen, we came out of nowhere and all of a sudden we go from nothing to thousands and thousands of people and getting a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Am I going to apologize for that? No.
And you shouldn't.
Because whatever we were doing connected with our listeners, and I'd like to think the marketing tactics that we use for our show have proven to be very successful online and gotten us attention and eyeballs and listens. And, it's all, it's just all been successful. Yeah. And, it came out of nowhere and went up, skyrocketed. That's not to say it's better than anybody else's show. It just, whatever we do is connecting.
Yeah, it's like, listen, there's probably hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of talk radio podcasts. Some rise to the very top and are mainstream. I think you guys would be the most mainstream KISS podcast out there that, when people think of a KISS podcast, they think of probably you guys and Podkissed. But that doesn't take away from the other shows, I don't think.
Not at all. Not in a heartbeat, not in a second. I mean, they have other shows have, the History Science Theater. I love, and quite honestly, before we came up with Three Sides of the Coin and our whole concept, and I wasn't aware of History Science Theater, but I was like, what would be a cool concept is Mystery Science Theater done with KISS. So, those guys are on it. They've got History Science Theater, and hats off to them.
Yeah, they're great.
What connected, why it happened, that's sort of one of those unknowns that whether it's a band, a podcast, a radio show, a TV show, you can't sit back and go, well, it was A, B, C, D that made this successful, and you didn't do C, and therefore you failed. We can all be doing A, B, C, D, and D, and for whatever reason, only one connects.
Yeah.
And, what is it? What is it? Is it the content? Is it the personalities? Is it the personalities between all three people? Who knows what it is? I think what Tommy and I have learned since day one is, one, it's not the guests.
Right.
Because we've had shows without guests that get significantly more listens than shows with guests. Mm-hmm. So it's not that the fans just want guests. I think it's the fans want stories. Yeah. They want you to tell stories. They want memories. They want a connection at that level. And through my online marketing, there's a consultant to the radio industry. Her name's Valerie Geller. And she consults major radio programs. She was one of the guests on the Music Biz Weekly. Her basic takeaway is it's all about a good storyteller.
Yeah.
That's what listeners connect to. So when we've done shows where Tommy and I just sit back and reminisce and tell the stories about the first time we saw KISS on the Paul Lynde special, and we talk about that for 45 minutes, my God, the connections that come out of that from fans going, oh, I remember that, and I was doing this, blah, blah. I didn't see that, but my first time was on American Idol, and it's just like then the stories flow from your listeners. We don't get those types of stories when you have guests. Yeah. When you have a guest, it's sort of like, oh, wow, that was really cool. I didn't know that. Really great guest. It's when you evoke those stories and memories with people that they really take the time to write 4-paragraph comments on a Facebook page telling you long feedback. And when you see that, it's like, that is what you're after.
Yeah, it connects.
Everybody connecting like that. So, and look at the successful radio shows. Adam Carolla, Howard Stern. They tell stories.
Yeah.
They tell their personal life. They open up and tell everything that they're comfortable with telling. So I think that's what it is. Now, do other podcasts do that? Sure. But why are we different? I don't know. Again, maybe it's where we're coming from. Maybe it's our personality. It could be as simple as our voice.
It can't be answered.
It can't. It isn't, because if it could be answered, there would be successful morning radio shows everywhere happening in the country.
Yeah.
People wouldn't be getting laid off and losing in ratings because everybody would know the trick. We can only sit back. This is sort of why we don't take advice from fans. Because whatever we're doing is working.
It's working, yeah.
We don't know exactly what it is, but we do know that if we start tweaking it and playing with it, we might break what's working.
Right.
So therefore, let's just keep doing what we think we've been doing from day one.
I love that. Michael Brandvold, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing this with me. Lots of interesting insight, man.
Thanks, man. This was great. Great. I love getting on, talking Kiss, talking podcasting.
Awesome. So,
anytime you want me back.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to have you on for some kind of album discussion. I've been talking about this for a while. Anything you want to say to the Kiss Army or the podcast listeners before you go?
Honestly, we are truly humbled and amazed and grateful for everybody that listens to us. To think that when we started this show, we had no expectations. If 10 people listened to us, that was fine. We didn't care. And to see that, we'll get 10 people as soon as a new show goes live, 10 people listen in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And, there's 100 people after the first hour. It's just like, it's freaking amazing to hear how important this show has become to people, that, it's gotten people through tough times in their life. People have sent us messages about kids who are being treated for cancer, and they would look forward to our show every week because it brought a little humor and life into, some terrible things. People that would just be like, I can't wait to get home on Tuesday nights and watch it. It's just like, I can't imagine. We couldn't ever imagine creating something that had that much impact. And now that we are, it's amazing. I mean, we're just a couple Kiss fans that get on the internet and talk about Kiss. And the fact that people love it literally just blows our minds. I mean, there isn't a week that goes by that the three of us, myself, Tommy, and Mark, are just like, I can't believe the response, the reactions, the connections we're making. I mean, it's just thank you to everybody who's watched, who tells their friends about us. I think it's just further proof how the Kiss Army, outside of a few bad eggs, the Kiss Army is pretty freaking amazing.
They are. It's crazy. They've launched so many people. They've helped me, and it's incredible. And I wish you all the best of luck with your podcast, and I'll continue to listen. And just thanks again for coming on.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
All right, so this will be up on Wednesday. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, man. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.